This has to be one of my favourites. It's probably very close to the top of the list. I adore perennial plants. My garden is composed about 80% of perennials. And I love them because they change all the time, right the way through the season. Of course, most of them are herbaceous. In other words, you can't see them in the winter, but come the spring, up they come, and then they flower and flower and flower. And some of them are incredibly accommodating. They're so straightforward to grow. This has to be one of my favourites. It's probably very close to the top of the list. Astrantias. They come in a whole range of colours between white and really deep clarity crimson. This pinky one is a real favourite. It's Astrantia Roma. It's utterly gorgeous. Very easy if you want to divide it and make more, do it during the winter, during the dormant period, and it'll just make great big gorgeous clumps. And what's more, because of those papery bracts, you can just leave them on there for ages. You don't have to deadhead. That doyen of cottage gardening, Marjorie Fish, had a really wonderful saying. She said, when in doubt, plant a geranium. And I totally agree with her. I'm sure most gardeners would. We've all almost certainly got one geranium or another in our garden because there are geraniums for every kind of site and situation. There are geraniums which love sunshine. There are geraniums which thrive in shade. Some like it very, very well drained. Some don't mind a moist soil at all. And all of them give you continuous flowering right the way through the summer. You can deadhead them if you like, or in the case of geranium pretense, the meadow cranesbill, one of our native plants, you can just leave it to throw its seeds around absolutely everywhere. Eventually, it creates the most glorious sort of romantic effect. Geraniums are very straightforward to grow. Buy one in a pot first of all, put it in, and then in subsequent years you can just dig it up and divide it. With some of them, things like geranium sanguineum, which has a sort of rootstock which runs just under the surface of the soil, you can actually take root cuttings and make more that way. I suppose some people think phlox are really old-fashioned. They remind you of these great big long herbaceous borders in stately homes. But for me, they're one of the stalwarts of any garden. I love the way that they'll flower on and on continuously, right the way through into the autumn, especially if you give them the Chelsea chop, where you actually reduce some of the stems to half their height in, well, the end of May, Chelsea time. That means that on the growth that you leave, you'll get the first flowers, quite tall, and then subsequently the shorter flowers that you'd cut down earlier will flower again, so you get an even longer season. I love the range of colours too, everything from deepest deep purple to pure white. In this garden, I've got lots of one particular phlox. I call it my mum's phlox because she gave it to me in the first place. They're one of those plants that you can break apart and give pieces to. They really, really do get spread around like that. Sometimes you'll see a whole street where you can tell they've gone from one garden to another over the garden fence. If, like me, you garden on substantial soil, we're on quite heavy clay, even though it's been much improved, you could not do better than choose Astilbes. There's such a range of different sorts with these soft, feathery plumes of flower and really, really great foliage. I don't think people think enough about the kind of foliage that some perennials give you because that's part of their whole contribution to the garden. We've got Astilbes in here which are dark red when they come through in the spring. This glorious foliage, a fantastic contrast to things like hostas. And of course, they love the same sort of conditions. If your soil is damp, they're an absolutely must-have plant. And those feathery plumes are so graceful and delightful and go on for an absolute age. In this garden, we leave the flowers when they've finished because the seed heads are almost just as beautiful, although not quite so colourful. When we came here, first of all, the one plant that I really, really wanted was Alchemilla mollis. I looked everywhere for it, and people used to say to me, oh, that old thing, we chuck it out by the barrow load. And I used to feel like saying, well, chuck a bit at me then. I couldn't get hold of it for ages, but once I did, I really went to town. Well, the Alchemilla did. And the leaves have these lovely scalloped edges. And when you come out after it's rained, you can see all those raindrops just gathering together in the centre of the leaves. It's a really romantic sort of image. And when those leaves are joined, embellished with those lovely, fluffy little lime green flowers in midsummer, then it is the perfect picture, a perfect cottage garden. It's the easiest plant to grow and one of the most useful, as well as being one of the most beautiful.